Hello, my name is Matthew, and Steve Donahue and I have our little book club. And for the month of June, Steve selected Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry, and I'm reading it on my e-reader. The save screen is the front of the cover, which is really neat. And we're reading about a quarter of the book each week, which is 200, 250 pages around there. It's around 1,000 page novel. I've read a quarter of the book so far, and I love it. It's great. Um, so many of the books that Steve and I have read over these months are selections that are surprising to me and books that I wouldn't have picked up um, on my own. So, comic books, science fiction, fantasy, recently a military political thriller with 7 Days in May. And then this, a book that I know about, I've heard a lot about it, I've pretty much only heard praise, but I've always heard it described as a Western. And for whatever reason, I've never had a great desire, a real um, um, active interest in reading Westerns. I don't know why. Probably because I haven't ever read them. And I talked to a few people. I talked to my girlfriend about this book, and then just this morning I was talking to my neighbor. She was out with her dog doing the gardening, and I mentioned that I was reading this book, and she had a very similar reaction that I had and said that she'd heard of it, never read it, wasn't really interested in Westerns. And I said it was a fabulous book. I said it's amazing. She said, "Why is it amazing?" And after the first page just relieved any sort of reluctance or consternation that I might have had with the genre. 200 pages in, it's hard to even very confidently say, well, this is a Western. It sounds just as strange as saying the Karamazov brothers is a murder mystery. I would probably describe this more as a historical novel, um, as a more accurate description than a Western. In the first maybe 100 pages, not very much happens. There's not very much action. We get instead an introduction to our principal characters. We have Augustus McCrae and Call and Jake Spoon, who comes in a little bit later. We have um, Newt and Dish, and we're told about the world that they live in, and it's as if they're still living. They're living in a time that's already gone by, and so Augustus, Gus, and Call used to be these rangers. They were captains and these rangers, and it was at a time when America is fighting the Indians and fighting the Mexicans. This book takes place at a town called Lonesome Dove on the border of Mexico. All of this is kind of past. It's all settled down. Gus and Cole are now older. They're living in this a town that seems as if it's soon to be a ghost town, a town that really never got off of its feet and is just decaying. And we find Gus at the beginning of the book um, lazily just enjoying being older, not having very much to do, can spend time with the pigs, um, joke, tell stories. Gus is the talker. The book has these great characters. Um, Gus um, displays a sense of humor. You really get a sense of his personality and what he finds funny, and the dialogue is written in a way that he is funny, which is so much fun, and it's contrasted with Call, who is this stoic, silent figure who is just like a locomotive, um, built like an engine to wake up and work all day and fall asleep exhausted. And the characters that are living in this household, they all live, they all work for this company. It's a cattle company. It's the Hat Creek Cattle Company. All these old time cowboys and young men that uh, aren't so much friends, but interact as if they're all like an old married couple. They've just spent their whole lives together. They love each other, and they know each other. They get on their nerves. Gus likes to argue for sport, just has fun razzing people. Um, and we, we, we're left with the idea that Gus is kind of lazy, doesn't do very much, and is sarcastic and doesn't take anything seriously. But when he needs to, he's the best at it. Whatever it is, he'll have the most confidence. He'll never lose his grip or lose his sight. He'll be there when it counts, which allows him to be lazy most of the time. And Call, uh, who is not very well humored with all of Gus's wisecracks, and just their relationship alone, I could read a whole novel with these two with nothing happening. We do start getting things, plot points and action, things that do start happening in the book. But the thing that impressed me most about the book, and most immediately, was the tone, the tone of the novel, um, the narration. It really feels like a story that is being told at the front of a porch with two rocking chairs, and you're sitting there across from someone who is completely confident and comfortable um, in their ability to tell an engaging story, and not worried about losing your distraction, losing your attention, not worried about distracting you or boring you, and is willing to go off on side stories and to take moments to have a digression about a certain character or a backstory about someone's life. We have so many characters that just take breaks to have a conversation about something that happened in someone's life. And all of these backstories, all of these digressions um, build up very quickly to the point where all of the characters feel real and lived in. Characters that have lived long lives and that they've known each other a long time. And the way that, as if someone is just sitting in a rocking chair telling you this story, he's aware that there needs to be punchlines and callbacks and conclusions, and there's just like these rolling mini stories as the main story is going along. It just feels it's as if the author knows that you're not going to be distracted by the television or picking up your phone or listening to the radio. This is the source of your entertainment. And that sort of confidence that comes off of the page, that idea comes off the page, is so confident and rings true. Not very much happens in the first 100 pages of the book. I could read 1,000 pages if it's this good with nothing really happening. But we do get the introduction of um, Jake Spoon, who comes into the cattle ranch. Um, the cattle ranch, meanwhile, one of my favorite um, episodes was there was going to be a sign, and it was going to just say the Hat Creek Cattle Ranch, and Call didn't want to have a sign. Augustus wants to have this elaborate, educated, impressive sign, and it's a sign that keeps getting stuff added to it, and it's talking about what services they have, and who's working at the ranch. Um, I think I can even find it. Let's see. It's so funny. Here we go. So this is the sign, and it says the whole sign read Hat Creek Cattle Company and um, Livery Emporium, Captain Augustus McCrae, Captain W.F. Call, P.E. Parker, Dietz Joshua. Dietz is the black character in the book. He has amazing hearing, amazing senses. He was really happy that he got his name on the board. Wranglers. For rent, horses and rigs. For sale, cattle and horses. Goats and donkeys, neither bought nor sold. We don't rent pigs. And then a Latin inscription. Uba, ubum, babendo, beria fit. That's on my e-reader. And Augustus put this Latin motto to seem very sophisticated and cultured, even though he found it out of um, a Latin book of mottos where he doesn't even know what it means. But we don't rent pigs. I just thought that was so funny. There was a laugh out. Oh my gosh, yeah. We don't rent pigs. Anyway, that's where they work. And we have Jake Spoon, who comes into town. He's an old friend of these, another kind of ranger. He has a storied life, going across the country and doing different things. He was in, he just fled from Arkansas back to Texas, back to Lonesome Dove, because he shot a dentist by accident. He got into a fight and then blew off his shotgun or rifle, and it goes straight through the planked wall of the saloon and hit an innocent bystander walking down the street. This dentist shot him dead. So he's now on the run. Goes back into hiding at Lonesome Dove. There's a chance that there's law enforcement after Jake Spoon. But he gets there, and it's Call and Gus, and Jake Spoon starts talking about all of the riches and fortunes that can be found in Montana, being a cattle ranger in Montana. And he's just talking about how it's this undiscovered country, and the people that get there are going to just be wealthy, fabulously wealthy. And it strikes a chord with Call. He's someone that's just railroad focused, wakes up, works all day, and is systematic and stable, consistent, just like a hammer, beating down on a nail. But we get the idea that when he does get an idea, when he does have a sea change, a new direction, he'll turn all of his focus on to that new future ahead. And that's what happens. Augustus, meanwhile, these kind of older guys. He just wants to sit on his porch, talk to his pigs, make wisecracks, drink his whiskey. He goes to the Dry Bean, which is this um, saloon, gambling house, brothel. This town, we have this fabulous character, Lorena, Lori. And just like all of these characters where we get backstories, this is another example where Lorena's brought up, but we hear this tragic tale of a girl that's forced into prostitution, forced into these abusive, dominating relationships. Her dream of being in San Francisco, how she's ended up in Lonesome Dove, the people in her life that have betrayed her and lied to her. We get the sense that she's beautiful, very, very attractive, but has either misanthropic or really a deep hatred for men. She's this prostitute in this little town. She's the only prostitute at this at the time, and everyone in town is using her services. And there's young guys that all think that they are in love with her and they want to take her away. Gus is going there, sleeping with her and giving her extra money, and sometimes giving her money just to sit so Gus can talk. And that's the sort of life that Gus wants to have. Well, Jake meets Lorena, falls in love, and Lorena falls in love with him, or at least they're infatuated with each other. And Jake promises, right after the whole thing about going to Montana, he promises to take her to San Francisco. And almost immediately, like Jake now doesn't want to go to San Francisco. Call has turned all of his attention, the entire cattle ranch, now dead set on going to San Francisco, and adamantly insisting that Jake is going. You brought all of this up. You know how to get there. Now we're doing it. You have to do it. It's great. There is this adventure sequence. We have two other cattle rangers come into town. They read the sign. They see Dish and Newt, kind of the younger characters. I think now I can't remember, but either Dish or Newt don't know who their father is, and their mother was also a prostitute. And there's like 3 or 4 characters in the book that are all here, like Gus and Jake and someone else. And there's almost like this equal likelihood that any one of them could be the father. And so there's this netting of parental responsibility with all of them. But we have these 2 characters that come. They meet Gus and say that they had 40 of their cows stolen, and now they need 40 cows because they're doing something. They want to buy the 40 cows. And they're a cattle ranch, but they don't just have 40 cows lying around. And Call says, we'll have 100 for you tomorrow morning. We'll have 100 cows for you. Right now they don't have any. And they make their agreements, and the plan is that they're going to get together, cross the Mexican border, steal cows from a Mexican cattle ranch. The guy's name was like Pedro, I think. Pedro something. And then bring them all back. This is all going to happen by moonlight. And we're told that a part of their business model is stealing cows from Mexico and bringing them back. Meanwhile, the Mexicans are crossing the border and stealing cows and bringing them back to Mexico. And so they're just like stealing each other's cows. But anyway, so we get this like kind of adventure story. It's the middle of the night. They cross the Mexican border. We have Newt, who is like never even held a gun. We get a little bit from his perspective. He's nervous and weary. And nothing really goes wrong. We just get these like unexpected, surprising, kind of humorous moments. They run into two bumbling Irishmen who I can't remember the town that they were trying to get to, but they leave Ireland. They completely overshoot the United States entirely and find themselves deserted in a Mexican cattle ranch. They pick them up. They find the 40 cows that were originally stolen, and then they find like 100 more cows, and pretty much get them back with no incident. And like, as you're reading it, thinking like, okay, well, something bad's gonna happen, and the storytelling is so great that unexpected things can happen, but there doesn't have to be some crisis that has to, like a Mission Impossible. Something needs to be solved. Instead, they say we're gonna go get 100 cows. They leave in the middle of the night. They go get the 100 cows. They come back. They go, okay, we did that. And it's great. And at about the quarter percent mark, 250 pages, it really feels like we're getting ready to leave Lonesome Dove, which, if all of these people do leave, it's just going to be it's going to be a ghost town. To go off to Montana. We still haven't quite left yet. There's preparations to be done. Call wants to get more hands on deck. He's going around to other ranges and farms looking for old families that have young boys that can be useful on this trip up to Montana. Lorena, it seems like, is going to be going on the trip to Montana with Jake. She's given up being a prostitute. There's a moment where Gus knows, and Gus and Jake are friends. Everyone knows what's going on. Gus goes in because he's always paying for Lorena's services, and he goes, "I want to poke," and that's what he says. There's like these euphemisms throughout the book, things like describing a man's carrot, giving a girl a poke, and just like that feeling of like being on a porch, sitting on a rocker, and maybe being a little racy, being blunt, but not offensive, or maybe not quite knowing your audience. So just getting the point across. There's something just very warming about that style. Like, I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to tell you everything, but I don't quite know you. So this is how I'm going to tell you. But, and again, it seems like we're building up to this tense love triangle. Gus wants to have a poke with Lorena. Lorena's given up prostitution. She's now with Jake. Gus and Jake are friends. They end up sleeping together. Gus pays her $50. The next day, Lorena lets the cat out of the bag, tells Jake. And at least initially, he goes, well, if it was anyone else, I would have killed him. But not Gus. And at the 250-page mark, around there, it's the morning of, or the night before, the morning of leaving for Montana. And for a book that's called Lonesome Dove, it's 1,000 pages long. I'm totally invested in the book. I'm really curious to see if something happens that forces them to stay in Lonesome Dove, or if we leave and just go to Montana and just keep having adventures, or are we going to go to Montana and circle back to return to Lonesome Dove? I'm absolutely loving it. Those are my thoughts on the first quarter of the book. I'm really excited to hear what Steve has to say as well. So thank you for watching. Let me know if you've read the book or if you're reading along. Let me know what you think, or if you have any thoughts, anything I had to say. So thank you for watching. Please leave a comment if you would like, and take care.